Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being and Sustainable Development 2022-2023, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 76 years of independence, India's G20 presidency, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015-2030, as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Health. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's commemorations. Today, we are commemorating International Anti-Corruption Day on 9th December every year. So the UN Convention Against Corruption at 20, Uniting World Against Corruption. The world today faces some of its greatest challenges in many generations, challenges which threaten prosperity and stability for people across the globe. The plague of corruption is intertwined in most of them. Corruption has negative impacts on every aspect of society and is profoundly intertwined with conflict and instability, jeopardizing social and economic development and underpinning democratic institutions and the rule of law. Corruption not only follows conflict, but is also frequently one of its root causes. It fuels conflict and inhibits peace process by undermining the rule of law, worsening poverty, facilitating the illicit use of resources, and providing financing for armed conflict. So preventing corruption, promoting transparency, and strengthening institutions is crucial. If the targets foreseen in Sustainable Development Goals are to be met, the 2023 The 2023 International Anti-Corruption Day, ISCD, seeks to highlight the crucial link between the anti-corruption and peace, security, and development. At its core is the notion that tackling this crime is a right and responsibility of everyone, and only through cooperation and involvement of each and every person and institution can we overcome the negative impact of this crime. States, government officials, civil societies, civil servants, law enforcement officers, media representatives, private sector, civil society, academia, the public, and the youth alike all have a role to play in uniting the world against corruption. So the 2023 IACD International Anti-Corruption Day commemorates the 20th anniversary of the UN Convention Against Corruption. As we celebrate this milestone, we reflect on the positive changes brought about by the collective efforts driven by the convention. Equally crucial is our examination of the remaining gaps that require attention to ensure that this mechanism continues to strengthen in the years ahead. Corruption is complex. Social, political, and economic phenomenon that affects all countries. Corruption undermines democratic institutions, slows economic development, and contributes governmental instability. So corruption attacks the foundation of democratic institutions by distorting electoral process, perverting the rule of law, and creating bureaucratic quagmires whose only reason for existing is the soliciting of bribes. Economic development is stunted because foreign direct investment is discouraged, and small businesses within the country often find it impossible to overcome the startup cost required because of corruption. On 31st October 2003, the General Assembly adopted the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and requested that the States General designate the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, as the Secretariat for the Convention's Conference of State Parties by Resolution 58 by 4. Since then, 190 parties have committed to the Convention's anti-corruption obligations, showing near universal recognition of the importance of good governance, accountability, and political commitment. The Assembly has also designated 9th December as International Corruption Day to raise awareness of the corruption and of the role of the Convention in combating and preventing it. The Convention entered into force in December 2005. At its 20th anniversary and beyond, this convention and the value it promotes are more important than ever, which requires everyone to join efforts to tackle this crime. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and the Secretariat for the Convention's Conference of the State Parties are the forefront of ensuring a world united against corruption. Democracy is a universally recognized ideal and is one of the core values and principles of the United Nations. Democracy provides an environment for the protection and effective realization of human rights. United Nations Convention Against Corruption is the only legally binding universal anti-corruption instrument. The Convention's far-reaching approach and the mandatory character of many of its provisions make it a unique tool for developing a comprehensive response to a global problem. The vast majority of United Nations member states are parties to the Convention. The text of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption was negotiated during 7 sessions of the Ad hoc Committee for the Negotiation of the Convention Against Corruption held between 21st January 2002 and 1st October 2003. The Convention covers 5 main areas: preventive measures, criminalization and law enforcement, international cooperation, asset recovery and technical assistance, and information exchange. The convention covers many different forms of corruption, such as bribery, trading influence, abuse of functions, and various acts of corruption in private sector. Preventive measures, an entire chapter of the convention is dedicated to prevention with measures directed at both the public and private sectors. Criminalization and law enforcement measures. This convention requires countries to establish criminal and other offenses to cover a wide range of acts of corruption, if these are not already crimes under the domestic law. International cooperation. Countries are bound by the convention to render specific forms of mutual legal assistance in gathering and transferring evidence for use in courts to extradite offenders. Asset recovery. A highlight of the convention is the inclusion of a special chapter on asset recovery aimed at returning assets to their rightful owners, including countries from which they had been taken illicitly. Under the convention highlights, under prevention, corruption can be prosecuted after the fact, but first and foremost, it requires prevention. An entire chapter of the convention is dedicated to the prevention with measures directed at both public and private sectors. These include model preventive policies such as the establishment of anti-corruption bodies and enhanced transparency in the financing of election campaigns and political parties. States must endeavor to ensure that their public services are subject to safeguards that promote efficiency, transparency, and recruitment based on merit. Once recruited, public servants should be subject to codes of conduct, requirements for financial and other disclosures, and appropriate disciplinary measures. Transparency and accountability in matters of public finance must also be promoted, and specific requirements are established for the prevention of corruption in particularly critical areas of the public sector, such as the judiciary and public procurement. Those who use public services must expect a high standard of conduct from their public servants. Preventing public corruption also requires an effort from all members of the society at large. For these reasons, the convention calls on countries to promote actively the involvement of non-governmental and community-based organizations, as well as other elements of civil society, and to raise public awareness of corruption and what can be done about it. Article 5 of the convention enjoins each state party to establish and promote effective practices aimed at the prevention of corruption. Under chapter criminalization, the convention requires countries to establish criminal and other offenses to cover a wide range of acts of corruption if these are not already crimes under domestic law. In some cases, states are legally obliged to establish offenses. In other cases, in order to take into account differences in domestic law, they are required to consider doing so. The convention goes beyond previous instruments of this kind, criminalizing not only basic forms of corruption, such as bribery and the embezzlement of public funds, but also trading influence and the concealment and laundering of the proceeds of corruption. Offenses committed in support of corruption, including money laundering and obstructing justice, are also dealt with. Convention offenses also deal with problematic areas of private sector corruption. Countries agreed to cooperate with one another in every aspect of the fight against corruption, including prevention, investigation, and the prosecution of offenders. Countries are bound by the convention to render specific forms of mutual legal assistance in gathering and transferring evidence for use in court to extradite offenders. Countries are also required to undertake measures which will support the tracing, freezing, seizure, and confiscation of the proceeds of corruption. Under asset recovery, in a major breakthrough, countries agreed on asset recovery, which is stated explicitly as a fundamental principle of the convention. This is particularly important issue for many developing countries where high-level corruption has plundered the national wealth and where resources are badly needed for reconstruction and the rehabilitation of societies under new governments. Reaching agreement on this chapter has involved extensive and intensive negotiations as the needs of the countries seeking the illicit assets had to be reconciled with the legal and procedural safeguards of countries whose assistance is sought. Several provisions specify how cooperation and assistance will be rendered, in particular in case of embezzlement of public funds. The confiscated property would be returned to the state requesting it in the case of proceeds of any other offense covered by the convention. The property would be returned providing the proof of ownership or recognition of the damage caused to a requesting state. In all other cases, priority consideration would be given to the return of confiscated property to the requesting state to the return of such property to pre-legitimate owners or to compensation of the victims. Effective asset recovery provisions will support the efforts of countries to redress the worst effects of corruption while sending the same time a message to corrupt officials that there will be no place to hide their illicit assets. Accordingly, Article 51 provides for the return of assets to countries of origin as a fundamental principle of this convention. Article 43 obliges today. We are also commemorating various others day, other commemorations like Genocide Prevention Day in Australia, which is observed on December 9th every year. Genocide is a word that refers to the acts of violence perpetrated against members of a racial, ethnic, national, or religious group. The goal is to annihilate the entire group. The term genocide became widely used after World War II when the time management Raphael Lemkin coined the term genocide. Lemkin was a Polish Jewish solicitor who fled Poland because of Nazi rule and reached the United States in 1940. When Lemkin was a child, he was appalled to learn about the killing of thousands of Armenians by the Turks during World War I. Later, Lemkin set out to coin a name to define Nazi atrocities against European Jews. And later, Lemkin set out to coin a name to define Nazi atrocities against European Jews during World War II. He's incorporated the term into international law to prevent, punish violence against the innocent. Lemkin invented the term genocide in 1944 by combining the Greek word genos, which means race or tribe, with a little difference. So, Genocide Prevention Day in Australia was established to create awareness about the Genocide Convention. Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide is a collection of articles that establishes how to prevent genocide and what to do if a country is in danger of being victim of genocide. So, Genocide Convention is a collection of articles that establishes how to prevent genocide and what to do if a country is in danger of being victim of genocide. The United Nations adopted the convention in 1948. The United Nations defined genocide to be an international crime in 1948. The world understanding the causes of genocide and genocidal conflicts is vital to preventing them. Genocidal conflict is found on identity. Genocide is more likely to occur in communities where different racial, ethnic, religious groups are involved in identity struggles. The first stage of preventing genocide is to identify the elements, discriminatory behaviors that continue to the violent to reduce and eliminate these contributing factors, since no country implementing homogeneous genocide is a problem. Rappel Lemkin comes with the term genocide in 1994. The genocide movement is adopted by the United Nations. The Genocide Convention is adopted by the United Nations in 1948. Member states pledged to safeguard their populations from genocide, ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity, wars. The Genocide Convention is accepted and enters full effect on January 12th with over 142 nations going for it. The convention has grown into popularity since 1951 and received strong global support. Over 140 countries. Despite being one of the Genocide Convention, its initial signatories, was not approved in the United Nations. State 1988. Ronald Reagan was the first. Despite being one of the Genocide Conventional initial signatures, it was not approved in the United States until 1988. Rogan Helden. The convention has grown in popularity since 1951 and received strong global support in over 140 countries. Despite being one of the Genocide Convention's initial signatories, it was not approved in the United States until 1988. To defeat the army, you must know the army, research the history of racial killings, and share the information with people around you. Today is also commemorated as International Day of Veterinary Medicine. So it recognizes the important work done by the organizers such as the American Veterinary Medical Association, AVMA, for those vision and mission is to promote a suffer and unidentified veterinary sectors that protect animal as well as human health and wealth. The practice of taking care of humans as well as animals have been there since in the history of mankind. Today we are commemorating International Day of Veterinary Medicine on December 9, 2023. Every year it recognizes the important work done by organizations such as American Veterinary Medical Association, whose vision and mission is to promote a strong and unified veterinary sector that can protect animal as well as human health and welfare. The practice of taking care of animals and preventing and curing diseases that ail them goes back all the way to Neolithic period, which contains the first recorded evidence of a cow that had undergone trepanation and trephination, a type of skull surgery involving the drilling of holes to treat injury or pain. Horse doctoring was one of the first organized veterinary professions to emerge in the Arabic world in the 9th century because of the economic and military significance of horses. The horse makers of farriers of London were even encouraged by the Lord Mayor to form a fellowships in 1356 to improve their practice of tending to horses. Professionalization efforts in France received a boost after the outbreak of rinderpest among cattle, and the first veterinary school was established in 1762. by Claude Bourglet, who is now legend in the field. Other societies linked to agriculture and industry also played a vital role in establishing the profession of veterinary care due to overlapping interests between the fields. Britain got its first veterinary school in 1790, while America had to wait almost a century more for the first public veterinary college, offering a 4-year degree in Iowa State University. According to the latest figures published by the American Veterinary Medical Association, there are 1,33,394 veterinarians of the US and 3,09,144 veterinary doctors in Europe. The profession is only growing in global significance with the rise of zoonotic diseases that spread from animals to humans. Digitization has caught up with the sector as well. Ear tags and smart collars for livestock can monitor temperature, movement, and even catch early signs of disease by tracking their appetite. There are also sound diagnostic tools that can monitor respiratory illness and intelligent applications for prediction apart from advances in vaccine technology. Pet wearables can now monitor mood, track exercise, and diagnose disease. Similarly, telemedicine is making healthcare access easier for people and animals. There is also a growing interest in fruit, plant, and insect proteins and sustainability in the pet food sector. There are many options in the field apart from studying to be a medical professional. Job roles encompass nutrition, physiotherapy, ecology, research, writing, and so on. If you have pets at home, but you have been neglecting to take care of them to the pet clinic or hospital for their annual visit, now is the time to schedule it. Once they are examined, vaccinated, and groomed for New Year, maybe it's time for you to book a health checkup for yourself. As they say, prevention is better than cure. So, veterinary doctors perform a vital job without the recognition bestowed on a human doctor. Even if it's not a thankless job, there are definitely thankless than other doctors. So it's not bad idea to set the record straight today. Send them a note or card expressing your gratitude for their service. If you have never had a pet, you are missing out. As Anatole France said, until one has loved an animal as part of one's soul remains unawakened. Even if you have pets before but don't have one currently, you can consider visiting your local animal shelter or adoption center. Take the plunge again and make room for a lovable kitten. The founder of the first veterinary school was first the director of the Lion Academy of Horsemanship. Bourglet also started with horses. Cows helped cure cervical cancer. Research on cattle diseases led to the development of a vaccine against the human papillomavirus, which causes cervical cancer in women. So it's a day and time to express our gratitude to the cows. Similarly, a vaccine developed for the poultry sector was also the first anti-cancer vaccine for the humans. Poultry catalyzed the cancer cure There are now many studies that show decreased blood pressure, cholesterol, and risk of stroke among families with pet animals. So pets improve our health. 60% of the emerging diseases among humans are zoonotic or transmitted by animals, especially wildlife. Zoonotic diseases are rising. Animal health is linked to human health. Many medicinal breakthroughs in the veterinary field have helped improve human health care and treatment. Apart from vaccines, even organ transplants were first developed in animal care. And of course, pet animals have great therapeutic abilities. We need to be more vigilant about the animal health, welfare, and engagement if we have to ensure a healthy human population. Ebola, Zika, SARS all have animal origins, including the latest COVID, and more diseases are likely in the future if we don't alter the way we deal with animals. More and more people are consuming wild animals and also animals through which we are contracting various diseases like zoonotic diseases. That's why even the World Health Organization predicted a pandemic because of our preference for consuming more and more meat. That means we are interacting with more and more animals and birds, through which we are more vulnerable to get zoonotic diseases from them. All the pandemics which have occurred till now are only because of our preference for eating meat from birds and animals. See how we humans have invited ourselves the pandemics and created a havoc and disaster for the entire humanity, not only just for the humanity, but also to other living beings, just because of our preference. If we change our preference, there is a lot of change that can be, a lot of disasters that can be prevented by moving to vegan or vegetarian. Despite the clear linkages with human health, animal doctors are sidelined in the medical profession and are not seen as equal to medical practitioners focused on humans. This discrimination has to end, and veterinarians must be recognized for serving a vital function in healthcare sector as a whole. In India, we have ICAR, Indian Veterinary Research Institute. Recently, (134th Foundation Day of ICAR IVRI was celebrated on the occasion of 134th Foundation Day on December 7, 2020. The Imperial Bacteriological Laboratory, established at Pune in 1889, was the first led by Dr. Alfred Lingard as in charge of the laboratory in 1890. 2 years later, it was felt that handling highly infectious microorganisms and pathological materials in a densely populated city like Pune is hazardous. Consequently, the laboratory was shifted in 1893 to an isolated site amidst the dense conifer forest of Mukteshwar in the Kumon Hills of United Province, located at about 1500 meters above the mean sea level. And cattle plague or rinderpest was the most devastating disease in those days, and the institute gave top priority for controlling this deadly disease. in fire. The first batch of anti-rinder pest serum was produced in 1899. By 1906, the institute started production of anti-sera against anthrax, hemorrhagic septicemia, and tetanus, a vaccine against black water, and a diagnostic against equine glanders. To produce more of these biological products, a subcenter was established at Kargena in the outskirts of Bareilly city, but limitations of space and site led to the acquisition of 306 hectares of land in Izzat Nagar in 1930, where the institute stands today. The Imperial Bacteriological Laboratory was renamed several times. It was known as Imperial Institute of Veterinary Research in 1925, Imperial Veterinary Serum Institute in 1930, and Imperial Veterinary Research Institute in 1936. Finally, when India gained independence, it was renamed as Indian Veterinary Research Institute. It came under administrative control of Indian Council of Agricultural Research in 1966. Over the years, the institute expanded by establishing regional stations at Palampur and Kolkata and campuses at Bengaluru and Pune. The scientific strength of the institute also contributed to the establishment of some reputed institutes such as Central Avian Research Institute, CARI, at Izzat Nagar in 1979, and the High Security Animal Diseases Laboratory at Bhopal in 1998, known as the National Institute of High Security Animal Diseases since 2014. In 2015, the institute established the Training and Education Center at Pune, Maharashtra. The institute has contributed immensely for enhancement of livestock production through control of economically important diseases and eradication of some of them, mostly notably eradication of rinderpest, CBPP, African horse sickness, and taurine. Important vaccines against economically important diseases include rinderpest, GTB vaccine, hemorrhagic, septicemia, anthrax, PPR, sheep pox, goat pox, and Newcastle disease of poultry. The institute has also developed a number of user-friendly and advanced diagnostics for livestock and poultry diseases. With time, the mandate and scope of institute was expanded and research was conducted to enhance productivity through genetic improvement of indigenous livestock and development of better cost-effective nutritional interventions. Value addition of livestock and products and research to enhance shelf life of livestock products and innovative technologies to monitor quality of livestock products during storage had helped the livestock producers and entrepreneurs. With recommendation of the Expert Committee on Standardization of Veterinary Biological Products, 1954, the Division of Standardization was established in 1969 to act as a central council laboratory for whole of India. It continues to be a DCGI recognized laboratory for quality testing of all veterinary vaccines and diagnostic being used in the country. The institute continues its focus on animal health products, mostly importantly to develop new vaccines and diagnostics and improvise the old ones. It also provides diagnostic services to various stakeholders, including wildlife organizations, and contributes immensely to monitoring and surveillance of diseases in the country. Development of low-cost therapeutic agents based on indigenous herbal preparations and advanced stem cell-based therapeutics. The institute has successfully transferred some of these technologies to various commercial manufacturers and entrepreneurs in the country and has disseminated these technologies to end users. The institute has a dedicated unit to promote entrepreneurs and commercialize the technologies. The significant achievement of the institute have been recognized through various awards, most notably the Sardar Patel Outstanding ICAR Institution Award twice in 2001 and 2009. The ICAR IVRI has also been actively involved in teaching and training veterinary professionals since the dawn of 20th century. Regular postgraduate and refresher course were organized since 1922, and the institute started awarding diploma for the associateship of IVRI in 1943, and a PG College of Animal Sciences was established in 1958. In the beginning, it was affiliated to the Agra University and subsequently to the Rohilkhand University. The deemed university status was conferred by UGC in 1983. The IBRI deemed university, with its reputation for the quality education, offers master's degree in 22 disciplines and doctoral degrees in 19 disciplines. The undergraduate program, BBSc and AH, has also been initiated from 2015 with an intake of 20 students. The university has MOU with several central and state agricultural universities for extending its expertise in higher education in veterinary and animal sciences. The Referral Veterinary Polyclinic and Teaching Veterinary Clinical Complex, TVCC, provide the treatment services to livestock and pet owners is an excellent platform for teaching purposes. The Wildlife Center of the Institute imparts education and training on wildlife health management and provides consultancy services to various state and central organizations. The Institute has also established the National Science and Veterinary Educational Museum and a mini zoo for educational and recreational purposes. Veterinary Council of India is a statutory body established under the Indian Veterinary Council Act 1984. It receives 100% grants and aid from the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy, Government of India to meet the cost of running the offices of the Council. Central Government White Gazette Notification 2nd August 1989 first constituted the Veterinary Council of India by nominating the members. VCI is charged with the responsibilities of making provision for the regulation of veterinary practice and for that purpose regulate the standards of veterinary education, preparation and maintenance of an Indian veterinary practitioner, registrar, electoral roll for election of members under each section 3 of 3G, recommended for recognition of withdrawal of recognition of veterinary qualifications to the central government and matters connected therewith and ancillary thereto. Similarly, the Indian Veterinary Association is the apex organization of more than 60,000 veterinarians of the country spread over from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Gujarat to Nagaland, every state and UT has its own association which is affiliated to the apex organization or the parent body. The Indian Veterinary Association, with its headquarters at Indian Veterinary Journal Campus at Chennai, Tamil Nadu, has a history of more than 98 years. Its mouth organ, Indian Veterinary Journal, is being published from 1924 onwards. In the year 1922, Dr. Professor or Karam Dane from Punjab presided over a conference of veterinarians at Moradabad, UP, when it was resolved to start an All India Veterinary Association. Thus, the present Indian Veterinary Association was formed in for the first time, and the Indian Veterinary Association became an accomplished fact in the year 1922. State associations were soon affiliated to the central body. Since then, conferences are being held and working for the advancement of veterinary sciences and raising of the status of the profession. The state associations deal with state matters with coordination of the apex organization. The Indian Veterinary Association, also known as IVA, was registered in the year 1967. It is the largest family of veterinarians acting as a voice of all at all India level, and they represent 60,000 veterinarians across the country with 28 state veterinary associations affiliated to it. The association is part of the supreme body of veterinarians by DAHD, Government of India, as evident in IVC Act 1984. This association feels and supports the work of veterinarians in research, medicine practice, and welfare of service veterinarians. So these are few organizations where even in India, lot of similar work is being taken care. And apart from that, we have one more organization, Indian Association for Advancement of Veterinary Research. Which is also one of its kind, contributing. Indian Association for Advancement of Veterinary Research, IAAVR, registered under Society Act 21, 1860, represents professionals, researchers, and students from all over India engaged in the field of veterinary research institutes, universities, pharmaceutical organizations, and other organizations. Member of the association will uphold the activities and reputation with the association with an aim to serve humanity and animals' welfare. They represent professionals, researchers, and students from all over India engaged in the field of veterinary research, education, and extension. It was registered on 8 January 1991. And the association provides a common platform for mutual exchange of knowledge and views. It will have voice of dedicated veterinarians to tackle various problems relating to veterinary research Over and above, the association will speak collective knowledge of its members by conducting seminars, symposia, conferences, and publication of scientific literature. It will help in the formulation of policies and their recommendations. Today is also commemorated as National Lama Day. Lamas are majestic creatures, adorable. They are also a big help to people all over the world. It's a perfect day today, National Lama Day, to appreciate one of the fuzziest farm animals around. They are smart, social, and produce very soft wool. Some live as long as 30 years. Whether you are cuddling up with your favorite llama or sharing some fun llama facts, it's a day to celebrate. Llamas charge at dogs or coyotes and have been known to make high-pitched screams when intruders approach. They make great guard animals. Llamas will come running to the sound of their owner's voice and they gladly cozy up for a nice hug. They are loyal and cuddly. Similar to dogs, llamas can have a variety of special markings. However, their close relatives, alpacas, are usually solid in color. There are currently over 150,000 llamas in the country. They are more common in US than you might think. Llamas make a lovable condition to almost any farm. In fact, farmers across the country have been adopting llamas since 1980s and they show no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Llamas are known for enjoying human interaction. They can even go out on outings with you, naturally curious and gentle. Llamas add joy to everyone around them. Today is also commemorated as International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of Victims of the Crime of Genocide and the Prevention of this crime. A living force in world society, the legacy of the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Every 9th December, the Office of the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide marks the adoption of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, a crucial global commitment that was made at the founding of the United Nations immediately preceding the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by General Assembly Resolution 69 by 323 of 29 September 2015. That day also became the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of Prevention of this crime. At its 75th anniversary this year, the Genocide Convention remains highly relevant. The 1948 Genocide Convention codified for the first time the crime of genocide in international law. Its preamble recognizes that at all periods of history, genocide has inflicted great losses on humanity, and that international cooperation is required to liberate humankind from such as odious courage. To date, 153 states have ratified the convention, achieving universal ratification of the convention as well as ensuring its full implementation remain essential for effectively advancing genocide prevention. The Genocide Convention includes the obligation not only to punish the crime of genocide, but crucially to prevent it. In the 75 years since its adoption, the Genocide Convention has played an important role in the development of international criminal law in holding perpetrators of this crime accountable, galvanizing prevention efforts, and in giving a voice to the victims of genocide. This year's event to mark the 75th anniversary of the Genocide Convention will focus on the theme of a living force in the world society. The legacy of 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. It will seek to highlight some of the achievements that emanate from the convention, showcasing its legacy and reminding of the efforts which led to its drafting and adoption. The event will also reflect on the challenges that remain for its effective implementation. Genocide is still a threat in the world today. Around world population remain at risk of this crime. The need to invest in prevention, as envisaged by the convention drafters 75 years ago, remains as relevant as ever. The event, therefore, will also seek to showcase the work of champions of prevention and their tireless efforts to protect populations from the scourge of genocide. The event will build up a series of expert consultation and meetings convened by the Office of the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide in the lead up to 9 December events, as well as an info campaign from the UN archives which seek to explore in detail the impact of convention in the fields of accountability, prevention, protection, and prevention. By its resolution 69 by 323 of 29 September 2015, the United Nations General Assembly established 9 December as the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of this crime. 9th December 2022 marks the International Day of the Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of Crime, as well as the 74th anniversary of the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, in short known as the Genocide Convention, the first human rights treaty adopted by the General Assembly. The convention signifies the international community's commitment to never again and to provide the first international legal definition of genocide widely adopted at national and international levels. It also establishes a duty for the state parties to prevent and punish the crime of genocide. Every year, the United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention and Responsibility Protect organizes events to mark this International Day honoring victims of genocide and the anniversary of the convention. The Genocide Convention, Article 2 defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, including killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group forcibly, transferring children of the group to another group. The convention confirms that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or war, is a crime under international law which parties to the convention undertake to prevent and punish. Article 1. The primary responsibility to prevent and stop genocide lies with the states. To prevent genocide and genocidal conflicts, it is critically important to understand the root causes. While conflict has many causes, genocidal conflict is identity based. Genocide and related atrocities tend to occur in societies with diverse national, racial, ethnic, or religious groups that are looked in identity related conflicts. It is not simply differences in identity, whether real or perceived, that generate conflict, but the implication of those differences in terms of access to power and wealth, services and resources, employment development opportunities, citizenship, and enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms. These conflicts are fomented by discrimination, hate speech, inciting violence, and other violations of human rights. In terms of prevention, the critical step is to identify the factors, discriminatory practices in a given situation that lead to or account for the acute disparities in the treatment of a diverse population, and to seek ways to diminish and eventually eradicate these possible causes of genocidal violence. Given that no country is perfectly homogeneous, genocide is a truly global challenge. The special advisors on the prevention of genocide on the responsibility to protect work together to advance the national and international efforts to protect populations from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity, including their incitement. One of their main tasks is to collect information on situations where there may be risk of genocide, war crime, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity based on the risk factors outlined in the framework of analysis for atrocity crimes. Due to sensitive nature of their mandate, much of the office's work remain outside of public eye. However, when special advisors assess that making their concerns public will reduce the risk of atrocity crimes in a specific situation, they do so by issuing public statements and upon request by briefing the Security Council. The outreach program on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and the United Nations focus on preventing genocide by learning lessons on the genocide in order to prevent and help prevent similar acts in the future, and supporting survivors by raising awareness of the lasting impact of the genocide, particularly on widows, orphans, and victims of sexual violence, and the challenges that they still face today. Today, we are also commemorating various other commemorations. Just a minute, let me lot. Today is also commemorated as National Opa Apples Day. A sunny fruit, unlike any other opal apples, with a vivid bright yellow appearance, unique crunch, and sweet and tangy flavor. This fruit is a cross between golden delicious apple and a topaz apple. But what makes this apple extraordinary is its incredible natural non-browning properties, meaning it will remain fresh and crunchy after cutting. Gone are those days when salads and lunch boxes were open to soft and mushy browning apples. Opals can be left slides for hours and won't turn brown. These are non-GMO and grown exclusively in the United States by First Fruits farms in Washington. Many people are choosing opals. There are over 7,000 varieties of apples, but this stands out. Today is also commemorated as National Pastry Day in US. Pastries are made dough out of grain meal and flour, sweetened it with honey and today there are countless types of pastries out there. In the culinary world, becoming a pastry chef is no cakewalk. It takes a ridiculous amount of professional training. Baking is, after all, more of an exact science than cooking. There's a lot of chemistry involved. It's very easy to screw up a pastry if you don't get the measurements or temperatures just right. The job also requires a lot of creativity to take the different kinds of pastry dough and make them into a variety of desserts. Pastry chefs don't often get as much acclaim as regular chefs, so we are glad we can take this day to applaud them. There are tons of delicious savory pastries out there too. Think quench, vegetable tarts, biscuits, and popovers. So celebrate this day by having a pastry for your main course and pastry for a dessert. Today is also commemorated as Very Willy Day in US. It is celebrated as a recognition of the art of cloning, but with a twist. Very Willy, as the name suggests, is a clown who wears his smile upside down. And the day is a tribute to the character popularized by circus performer Emmett Kelly during the Great Depression of the 1930s. Kelly, who created the Very Willy character, was born in 1898 and started his career as a trapeze artist and cartoonist. When he had started clowning about, he performed as a traditional white faced, happy go lucky clown. He came upon the idea to create a contrasting sad clown as early as 1920s, but it was difficult to sell management on his idea. The Great Depression that began in the US in 1929 saw an increased number of migrant workers forced to travel to earn a living. These workers, termed hobos, became the inspiration for Kelly to revisit his unpopular idea. Given the changed circumstances that had made his idea more acceptable and relevant, management finally gave the go ahead and Very Willy was born. Today is also commemorated as Techno Day in US. It is a day dedicated to celebrating techno, a music genre that is growing globally. The date of the day was intentionally chosen to coincide the birthday of John Atkins, who is widely considered originator of techno music, along with Derek May and Kevin Saunderson. Jointly, they are known as Belleville 3. Techno is a kind of electronic dance music, EDM, that originated in Detroit, Michigan in the late 80s. The first recorded utilization of the word techno in reference to the particular genre of music was around the same time. It is now very popular around the world. Techno was considered a fusion of dance music with the avant-garde futuristic sounds from the likes of German electro-pop group Kraftwerk. It is still regarded as an intellectual and cerebral with the subgene of ambient techno, which is designed to be enjoyed outside of the club environment, also known as intelligent dance music. A number of different electronic instruments are used by techno artists. These include sequencers and synthesizers, drum machines, and digital audio workstations. Today, many types of techno music exist, but Detroit techno continues to be viewed as the original building block for the gene. Today is also commemorated as Tanzania Independence Day. Tanzania independence movement is started in 1954 and was led by Julius Nyerere, who co-founded the Tanganyika African National Union, in short known as TANU. He was educated in Uganda and Scotland and began voicing his anti-colonial Africanist political agenda when he returned to his country. He was inspired by the non-violent independence movement waged by Mahatma Gandhi in India and advocated for similar resistance in Tanganyika. He was instrumental in uniting several tribal factions over the region to launch the United Front against the British. Elected to the General Council in the national elections of 1958-59, Nyerere, known as teacher or Mwalimu in Swahili because of his teaching career, became the first president of an independent Tanganyika in 1961. It became republic the next year and merged with Zanzibar in 1964 after they overthrew the Sultan of Zanzibar. This is when the name of the country changed to Tanzania. And finally, the last day of the commemoration. Today is also known as Christmas Card Day. To grab a recent family photo or box of cards, even tastefully designed e-card to get it right. So with this, we shall conclude today's commemoration. Thank you everyone for joining. The feedback form has been raised in the form of polls. We request everyone to quickly fill the feedback form. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow at the same time with the same link with different commemorations. Take care. Good night.